Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on mastering Azure Entra ID versus RBAC, deep dive into the identity and the resource access management. I'm Nandini Bharadwaj, the operating officer at CWL, and your host for today's session. So, let's get started. Okay, so before we start, let me give you a brief intro about our company. We are CW Labs, a global infosec company shaping the future of cybersecurity, learning with a presence across the UK, US, and India. Our mission is simple: make cybersecurity practical and accessible. We do this through our two powerful divisions, that is Niche Cyber Range Labs. Here we offer real-world hands-on cyber exercises. And number second is continuous learning platform, that is Infinity Learning platform. It's a continuous learning hub built for modern cyber pros. Additionally, CWL also provide customized on-site training for organization and accept bulk order for corporate upscaling. For inquiries or for more detail, feel free to reach out us at support@cyberwarfare.live. Okay, so let's move on to next slide. Uh, now it's time to introduce our expert for today's session, that is Parth Agrawal. Parth is a security researcher at CWL with a deep passion for cloud security and the platforms like AWS, Azure, and GCP. His extensive knowledge in cloud infrastructure and security operation make him as an invaluable part of our team. So, as dedicated cloud security enthusiast, Path Insights will provide immense value in today's session. Let's get started. And for our attendees, as a special thank you for joining us today, we are excited to offer that you will get attendance certificate and the webinar video recording along with the PDF material for future reference and guaranteed access to Infinity Learning platform for all attendees. We truly appreciate your participation and look forward for an insightful session together. So thank you for being part of our webinar and we look forward for your continuous participation. So from here, without further delay, let's dive in and over to you, Parth.
Uh, Okay, so good evening, everyone. If you are in the India, and yeah, and just get greet according to your time stamp. And sorry for the inconvenience of noise. Actually, we have Fun Friday going on in our office, so you might hear little bit of noises. So just give one confirmation key if you are able to see my screen and if you can hear me properly audible, if I am audible. Yeah, thank you. So let's quickly start the session. So I again welcome you everyone to this technical webinar on Azure Entra ID versus RBAC. I am Parth Agarwal and today we will explore how access control works in Azure. We'll compare Entra ID with RBAC and perform some of the demos to solidify our understanding. So, as security professional, managing identity and access control is one of the most critical aspects of securing cloud environments. Often we see confusion between Entra ID roles and Azure RBAC roles. So our goal today is to break them down, understand their differences, and learn how to apply them in our real world use cases in your organizations. Okay, let me just put it over the slideshow. So this is our today's agenda that we will be covering in our today's session. So it is structured to first build our foundational understanding and then we'll reinforce in the practical stuff. We will begin by Azure Entra ID, which is formerly known as Azure Active Directory. This is most like Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management system. In this part, we will see what Entra ID is, where it fits in Azure security architecture, how like core aspects like authentication, identity life cycles, and roles work. We will see the purpose and scope of Entra ID roles. Next, we will see is RBAC, which is the role-based access control mechanism that governs that identities can do across your Azure environment. In this part, we will cover what RBAC is and how it differs from Entra ID roles. We will see common built-in roles like high privilege roles like owner, contributor, and some of the low privilege roles as well, according to our case-by-case scenario. We'll understand role assignments and inheritance. We will then bring it all together by comparing Entra ID with RBAC side by side. So theory is kind of great, but to make it real with your demos that shows Entra ID and RBAC. So we will also see some of the demos through our one of the product which you might aware of, which is Infinity. Before we wrap up, we will see some of the top mistakes people make and the best practices you should follow. And at last, we will have a live session, like we will have Q&A session. So you can ask doubts in that allocated time. So you can just keep your doubts for now because we will see in between if we can cover the doubts as well in between. Yeah. So let's move to the first part, which is Entra ID. So you might already know it as Active Directory, Azure's Active Directory, but with the introduction of Microsoft Entra, Azure AD is now part of the broader Entra family under the name Azure Entra ID. What actually Entra ID is? So it is the Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management solution. It acts as the central identity provider for all users, your groups, applications, and all the devices in your Azure tenant. It is responsible for authentication, verifying if the user or application is who they claim to be. And think of Android as the who part of the access control in Azure. I have given one quote here to make comparison between the real world. So let's say if Azure is your house full of resources like rooms, here rooms is reference of our resources, VMs, storages, databases, functions, etc. Then our Entra ID is the Entra ID is your security guard standing at the main gate, deciding who gets in this rooms. Okay. Now that we understand what Entra ID is, we will explore some of its key capabilities. So first, here you can see is the authentication. Azure provides multiple ways of authentication. One of the way is single sign-on. So user sign in once and get access to multiple applications. Second one is MFA, which adds an extra layer of verification. Third method is the passwordless authentication using some FIDO security keys or your Microsoft Authenticator app. Third and fourth one is the conditional access policy. And last we have is the federation and external identities. Okay. The second capability we have is the user and group management. So Azure Entra ID provides centralized identity lifecycle management for our users and groups. So you can create, update, disable, or even delete users account. You can define groups, like it can be static or simply access assignment. You can automate provisioning or deprovisioning from on-premise AD via Azure AD Connect. Use through this management console, you can assign access to resources and apps at the group level instead of per user level. Third capability we have is the application as SaaS access control. This is also one of identity provider. So Here, if you see, Entra ID act as an identity provider for internal and external applications, managing how users authenticate and what permissions they have. So through this, we can register internal applications using app registrations. We can enable SSO to over around 3,000 plus SaaS applications, can control app visibility and enforce conditional access for each app. Here, app means app registration, which act as an identity like user. Okay. uh, Use we can use service principals to represent app. So here app is an identity, but specifically we assign service principal to the app, and service principal will act as an identity. Okay, we can enable user consent or admin consent workflows for our app accesses. The fourth capability we have is the device identity and management. So this Android ID allows you to register and manage devices accessing your cloud and on-premise resources. So this have Azure AD registered devices, which are personal devices that are registered but not fully managed. We have AD joint devices. So these are the company-owned devices that are fully joined to Entra ID. Then we have hybrid joint devices. So these devices are on-premise AD joint devices that are also connected to Android ID. And last, we have integration with Microsoft Intune, which is also one of the product of Microsoft for full device compliance enforcement. Okay. The last capability here we will be discussing is a little bit more important in our today's session. Fifth capability that we have is the directory role and role-based administration. So Android ID includes built-in roles that provides granular administrative access to various identity related functions. It also includes custom roles, but for the custom roles, you might need some more enterprise level subscriptions. In free subscription, this custom roles are not available in Azure AD, means Android ID. Okay. So if we see the count, we have 60 plus built-in roles available. We have delegated administrations, which assigns specific rights to specific teams or by a specific like individuals. Then we have custom directory roles with specific administrative permissions. It can be managed with PEM, which is privileged identity management for some just-in-time access. Okay, let's move further. So as we have talked about roles and I have mentioned that it is a crucial part of Entra ID. So Entra ID roles are tenant-wide roles that grants permissions to manage identity-related configurations. So these rules apply to Azure Entra itself, not to the resource sites like VM. So here we will be breaking the wall between the Azure Entra ID and Azure RBAC. So if you see Entra ID roles, so it will assign to the Entra ID side, not on the resource side. Okay. So this roles you assign them to the user groups or to the service principal when you want them to manage identity objects such as other users, groups, enterprise apps, or some policies. Okay. So to understand it more precisely, we can go by one scenario here. I have depicted one scenario. So the scenario is of let's say some organization. So we are onboarding a security operation analyst in a mid-sized organization. Let's say you are a cloud admin in an organization with around 300 employees. So your company recently hired a new security operational analyst, Jack, who needs access to some resources and Microsoft Defender security dashboard and identity protection reports. However, he should not be able to change any settings or manage other users. So we just need the read permission. Okay. So what role will you give him? Here we will take a pause and we will see your responses if you have any response to make on it. Guys, you can give answer in the chat as well. are here as well. If anyone want to answer this question, otherwise we will see the solution as well. No worries. Anyone want to answer anything? Least privilege, yeah, least privilege, but any role, a dedicated role do you have in your mind? Like a reader role, like specific particular role for this operations only. Definitely we will be adding least privilege role only because here we just want to read permission to specific resources, not any change or not any modify permissions. Okay, so let's move to the solution part. So we will assign the security reader role here. So we will see why it is needed to assign particular security reader role. So this is the built-in directory rule in Azure Entra ID. It allows read-only access to security-related features across Microsoft 365 and Azure. It does not grant access to configure settings or modify security policies. It applies tenant-wide. So wherever Defender for cloud, identity protection, or other Entra security service exists, he gets access automatically. Okay. So to our scenario, the solution, like the role we need to assign is the security reader role. Here, anyone have any doubt? We can solve it now. So as Akshat Kumar, if I pronounce correctly, Akshat Kumar has mentioned least privilege rule. So here we are just giving our permission to what he actually needs. Okay. So let's move further. Now that we have discussed how identities are managed with Entra ID roles at the tenant level, let's shift gear and let's talk about how we can control what those identities can actually do within RBAC side, within resource side. So this is where Azure RBAC or role-based access control comes in. Some might confuse with resource-based access control also, but here in Azure side, we will specifically talk about role-based access control, how particular roles will make difference. Okay, so RBAC is Azure's authorization system that helps you manage who can do what, where in your Azure environment. So it answers three essential questions: who can do what on which resource. So let's say there is one user who can read some of the resources, like means it have read access, and on which resource. That's a subscription level. So if I can say like this, a particular user named Jack has a reader role assigned to the subscription. Okay. So whatever comes under that subscription has yeah, the Jack has all the read operations over it. Okay. If I have also given one quote here. So to make it compare with the real world. So if Android is the let's say if Android is the security guard that lets people into the building, RBAC is the room by room access system that says who can open which door and use which machines inside. Okay. Let's move to the core concepts of Azure RBAC. So these core concepts will answer five questions, and we will side by side we will see five core concepts of Azure RBAC. So concept one will answer the first question, which is what is a role in Azure RBAC, and here the concept is the role. So a role in RBAC is a collection of permissions that defines what actions an identity can perform on which type of resources. Okay. So here we have some of the built-in roles again. I will just give you some brief about some high privilege roles. Here we have three basic high privilege roles. First is the owner, which has full access, including permission management. It can do anything if assigned to any identity. Contributor role, second role is contributor. It can create and manage all Azure resources, but it can't assign roles to other identity. Okay. Then we have reader role. Here the reader role is the view everything, but can't change anything role. So it can see all the things, but he can't do any modification to that resources. If we go to specific the resource, let's say virtual machine. So we have virtual machine contributor role, which manages virtual machines only. We also have some other roles, let's say some reader role for storage accounts. So here we have storage block data reader. So it only reads data from the block containers. For simplicity, let's think of a role as a job description. It defines what a person or app is allowed to do in Azure environment. Second question we have is the what is a role definition? Okay, so a role definition is a formal list of permissions bundled into a role. So Azure comes with over 100 built-in role definitions, and you can create custom roles when built-in ones don't fit. So unlike Azure Entra ID, in RBAC side you can create custom roles as well in a free tier, in a free subscription. Okay. So a role definition includes, I will just give some of the key parameters. So there is the name parameter. So what the role is called, we can name the custom role. Then we have actions parameter. It allows the operation, what operation you want. Let's say you want particular compute instance, virtual machine, read access. So you can allow in the actions. Then we have not actions, which are generally operation explicitly denied. You don't want some operations not to be performed by the user, then you can use not actions. Then we have assignable scope. Scope we will also think we discuss in the question 4. Scope is also a core concept, but in the role definition we need to assign scope. So here where the role can be assigned, like what till what part. Scope can be on the subscription level, on the resource level, on the resource group level, like this. So here role definitions are like blueprints. They say, let's say, here's what this role can do, but until you apply it to someone, it has no power. Let's say if you create role definition and not apply to any user or any identity, it is of no use. Third question we have is the what is a role assignment? So a role assignment is when you take a role and apply it to a specific identity. We just talked without assigning a role to an identity, it is of no use. So we can assign the roles to the specific identity and it is known as role assignment. Again, over a defined scope, mean again we have to specify the scope. So we will discuss about the scope in detail after this question is answered. So this particular question answers three answers who gets which role on which resource. So it can be answered into three parts. Okay. A role assignment has three parts. First is the principal. Principal means the identity which we'll be using. Identity can be user to which identity we are assigning role assignment is defined by the principal. Then we have role definition, the role which you are assigning, which role you want to assign to the identity. So it can be explained via role definition. Again, the third one is we have is the scope, to which level you want to give permission through role definition. Okay. I have one example for the role assignment. Let's say we want to assign the contributor role to user John at the scope of resource group dev group. Okay, that means John can create and manage all resources only in that specific dev group resource group. Okay, so I have one statement for RBAC. RBAC is additive. Let's say if a user has reader at subscription level and contributor at resource group level, their effective permission will include both at the resource group level. Okay, so here inheritance will come in into part. So inheritance works like on the top we have management group, below management group we have subscription, below subscription we have resource group, and below resource group we have resources. So subscription being top of the resource group, so whatever permission we assign to the subscription will be inherited to the resource group as well. Okay, yeah. Moving to the fourth question. So fourth question is the what is scope in RBAC, which is very important. So scope defines the boundary of access. where the particular role applies. Okay, so as we discussed about the hierarchy, there are four levels in Azure. So it means there are four scopes. First level is the management group, which is for, like, let's say, for organization managing multiple subscriptions. Then we have subscription. It applies to everything inside a subscription. Inside subscription, we can create multiple resource groups, multiple resources, and much more thing. Okay. Below subscription, we have resource group. So if you assign any permission to the resource group, so it applies to all resources present inside that resource group. Okay, inside like below resource group, we have resources. So if you assign to a specific resource, if you want to assign, let's say, a user can access this particular storage account only, or this particular virtual machine only, you can directly assign permission to the resource. Okay, so they will not have permission to the other resource. I just want to give a best practice here. So assign roles at the lowest possible scope needed. This follows the principle of least privilege. So it is very important, you know, what resources, what permissions particular identity require, and at what level it is required. Okay. Fifth question which we have is the who or what is a principal. Like, what is a principal? Okay, so a principal is the identity to whom you are giving access. Okay, so here where we have the four types of identities. First of all, we have user, which is a person. It can be a person in your organization, in your company, and anything. Then we have group. Let's say the employees that you have. Let's say we have developers, we have DevSecOps engineers. Okay, so you are creating a group of developers, and collectively they will call it as a developers group, right? Then we have service principal. So service principal represents an application or an automation process. The fourth identity we have is the a special identity for Azure resources, Azure services. So the special identity is the managed identity. So it is a special identity for Azure services like VM function. So your VM will act as an managed identity for some other service or for some other thing. Okay. Let's see some of the use cases for these identities. So assigning, we can assign a reader role to a user to view all resources. We already discussed this. We can assign storage blob data reader to a managed identity for a VM to read logs from a storage account. Okay, so if you assign managed identity of VM as a storage blob data reader, or it a managed identity of VM can read the logs or read whatever stored in the that container, a blob container. Okay, let's say assigning key vault secret user to a service principal used in your pipeline, is used in your CI/CD pipeline. So if you assign that permission, it can read secrets from the key vault. Okay. So if we want to wrap up all these concepts, so I will just tell you in a single liners. So a role defines a set of permission. A role definition is the technical configuration of the role. A role assignment binds a role to a user, to a group, to a app at a specific scope. So a role assignment binds a role to any identity. Okay. Always follow the least privilege and assign roles at the narrowest scope needed. You can use any CLI, PowerShell, or you can use any automation tool to create, manage the assignments. Let's move to the next slide. So here we have one scenario to better understand all the concepts. So the scenario is to, let me just walk you through this scenario. So the scenario is of DevOps team with controlled access. Okay. So let's say you are a cloud admin at some SaaS company. You have a DevOps engineer named Rahul who needs to deploy Azure functions and VMs in the dev resources resource group. Okay. But here one but is there again. which is he should not be able to delete resources in production or view any sensitive key vault secrets. Okay. So, and you also have a storage account containing logs which Rahul needs to read but not modify. Okay. So, what role or permission you give to him? Again, we will take a moment for if anyone wants to answer this particular scenario. What kind of role or what permissions you can assign? We need to assign multiple permission, multiple rules, as we have multiple functionality attached to this scenario. Anyone wants to answer for this question, for this scenario? Nope. So let's move to the solution. So here solution, let's say first what, let's see what. So he wants to deploy Azure functions and VMs in the dev resources resource group. So we can assign Rahul as the contributor role only at the scope of that particular resource. So he can manage his, and he can create and manage resources inside dev, but not no, but it does not have access to the prod. Okay. Then what he needs to do? Okay, this is the correct thing. But you also have a storage account containing logs which needs to read but not modify. Okay, so assign the storage blob data reader role on the specific storage account to let him read logs. So it will not allow him to delete or it will not allow him to modify the storage account. It can only read the logs. So do not assign anything at the subscription level. Limit access by. So yeah, here we are just assigning what permission Rahul needs. Only that permission we give access to it. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So here we come at the security best practices. So before we wrap up this session, yeah, by hearing that you might have struck like he talked about live demo. Yeah, we will definitely do the demos. Just after this security best practices, we will see the demo. So here I want to highlight some of the best practices. Let's say first is our enforce multi-factor authentication. We already talked about MFA, and Azure also provides MFA. So why this MFA? So password alone are not secure. MFA protects against compromised credential. So it is a must, I guess. Limit the use of global administrator. Here the global administrator means it can do whatever he wants on the Entra ID side. Okay, no other permission above global administrator. Okay, so why we have to limit the use of global administrator? It is the, as I discussed, it is the most powerful rule and can manage everything. Okay, then we have use conditional access for role sensitive activities. So why conditional access can restrict access based on what? Let's say user location, block from unknown countries, device compliance, risk level. Okay, so this is important. Then we have follow the principle of least privilege. I guess I have given two times because it is important. We need to think about like what permission is needed to what identity. So it is very important. That's why I have added twice. Follow the principle of least privilege. Okay. Then we have prefer groups over individual assignments. Why this is not important? Like you can follow this thing, but it will save your time and it will save like your efforts as well. So let's say we have discussed about groups where we have taken the example of developers. So developers they all need same kind of access, right? I know there are levels of developers as well, so we can create that groups. Let's say developers level one group, developers level two group, and we can assign what permissions or what access needed to specific to the group level. So everyone will have those permissions. Okay, so these are the best practices you should follow. Yeah, coming to the demo part. So if you like to gain hands-on experience with everything we have discussed today, you need to check out the Infinity platform. I will be showing you. So at Infinity Platform, it's a hands-on cyber range where you can solve real-world challenges while learning. So it doesn't just cover cloud security, but also includes five other secure cybersecurity domains to explore and to master. Okay, so the Infinity Platform is an interactive learning platform which is designed by the Cyber Warfare Labs. It built for learners who want more than just theory. So it will give you real world scenario based challenges across multiple domains. So let's not waste time and directly move to the Infinity platform. Okay, if you want to go to Infinity platform, here is the URL for it, infinity.cyberwarfare.live. Okay, just a basic sign in process. Okay, so I am here at the home page of the Infinity Learning Platform. So here you can see we have five different domains. You can move any of it. As we have talked about cloud part, we'll be moving to the cloud security. Okay, here you can filter according to the cloud provider, according to the tactic, or according to the services. Here we have some of the free challenges as well, and some of the paid challenges for which you need to buy the subscription. Okay, so here we will be solving free challenge only, obviously because I need to top up for the this month subscription. Okay, so here Azure, and we have both offensive and defensive. So if you want to learn about blue teaming as well, you can do over here. For today, we will be doing the red teaming only today. So here AD02 we have 800201. So here we have mentioned like what is the scenario happen. So as a member of Secure Corps Red Team, your mission is, if you choose to accept it, is to investigate application, which is app registration, to uncover sensitive details of the application in organization. Okay, here we have given the description. There is the attack flow as well, and here if you are not able to solve by yourself, we have solution as well. Okay, like this. Okay. For the initial prep, you must have the Azure CLI installed in your system. You just need to start the lab. It might take a little bit time. Yeah. So we got the subscription. We got the credentials. So the step-by-step process is we got the credentials of one service principal. So to log in with the Azure, to log into the CLI, we need client ID, client secret, and the tenant ID. So now you will be thinking how we will be getting the tenant ID. Here you have not provided tenant ID, but we have got the domain name. Okay. So through the domain name, we can get the tenant ID. Here we have mentioned one tool. Yeah, Azure AD internals. Through this tool, it's an open source tool. Anyone can use it. Through this tool you can get the tenant ID information. We have entered the domain name, and here you can see the I'm not I will not solve the complete challenge. I'm just giving a particular flow how you can start with particular challenge. Okay. So yeah, here we got the tenant ID. So just simple command is it login dash dash service principal something. You might have that, or we have given the mg. Yeah, we have given the mg graph. So you can also solve with this query. So what it will do, it will just authenticate you to the mg graph. Okay, mg graph is another CLI provided by the Azure only. Okay, so this query is created like this. Here you need to pass the client ID over here, client ID, after that client secret over here, and at the end we need to provide the tenant ID. Okay, tenant ID, it's important. You need to provide tenant ID over in this URL, login URL. So here you can see we have provided tenant ID over here. Correct. So once you head to this particular command, it will give you one token like this. So this token is a temporary token. It will expire in some hours. So after that, you can log in through the CLI log into the particular identity, particular service principal using this command. It will log in you to the Microsoft Graph CLI. Okay, then you can do get MG application. This command is to get the application details, app registration details. You will get the app name, app ID, client ID, everything. Okay, then we are investigating API permissions. So here if you do like this MG application test application ID, so this will give you the all application ID, sorry my bad, details of the this particular application. Here we have provided the ID. Okay, through this. And if we do require resource access, so what this particular command is doing is it's getting the whatever access, resource access that particular identity has. It will collect all that information, like here you can see it has collected all the resource accesses. Okay, here if you see we have one role attached, and we have the scopes. So to get the particular permission from the role, we can use the another command. So here we are using the get mg service principal command. So it will collect the service principal related details of that particular app, and after that we will be using the app roles command. Here we will be getting the collected role detail. Okay, so once we get the service principal detail like this, here we need to give the client ID again. Okay, no, my bad. Here we need to give the role ID that we got from the above. Here we got the role ID like this. Okay, we need to give that ID over here, so it will collect all the details of that particular role. Here you can see we have application.read.all over this particular application here, this E0C879, this one. Okay, this is all about the application app side. So here, like, we have other challenges as well, we'll see. Okay, this is one of the challenge for the Azure AD. We have done this. We have Azure AD 02. Here we named it as Azure AD 02, but here we are talking about the RBAC side as well. So we will be talking about Entra ID here, RBAC here. So it will cover all the things that we discussed today. This particular challenge. I just completed AD 01 just to make you aware about the app ID side. Okay, because app ID is the identity we are giving for the initial authentication. So if you have already started one lab, it will you need to complete first lab, then only you can start another lab. That's why it's showing another lab is active. Okay, so say all the challenges will have one scenario, will have description, will have some details. Here you, if you see the flag format, here this challenge is little bit lengthier. I will not say tough. Once you clear your fundamentals, it will not be tough for anyone. Okay, here we are, as we follow single flag structure. So to make it more interesting, we are making it in a stage. So flag 1, flag 2, flag 3. So if you combine whole three flags, it will make a new flag. So the flag will be like this: CWL and base, and inside the flag you need to provide base 64 encoded string of this particular thing. Okay, like this. So this is the flow what we are doing here. Okay, so again the same we need to do here. We can do with the as AZ login as well, and we can do with the curl request as well. Same thing. Okay, if you're doing in the Ubuntu, it will be easier to make a just query curl query request through the credentials we got. Okay, again, if you want to do AD AZ CLI, or if you want to do by the MG graph CLI, we have both commands mentioned over here. When do here we are performing enumeration over users, groups, and application. Means we are doing enumeration over identity. So this first particular command will list all the users. Okay, this particular command will help us to list the groups. Okay, so here get mg group. Okay, this will list all the groups, but this command will list what particular user. Okay, from here we'll get the user ID and what particular user, like we will find which this user is in the which group, like here you can see. Now, this will list all the app registrations, and this will list all the service principles. So here we have given the complete flow, complete write-up how we can solve. This is not just straightforward thing to the flag. Here you will do the enumeration, you will perform the initial access, you will perform the enumeration. Then in some of the challenge you might need to do privilege escalation for some of the to get to the final thing. You need to do privilege escalation as well in some of the challenges. Okay, yeah, this is the thing. If we go to the RBSC side, yeah, there will be the mg graph, mg application here command. We have also mentioned the automated tool microbus. Through this microbus tool you can do lot more thing. It will help you to gather the passwords, it will help you to get the libraries, it will help you to get the username which are exist inside a tenant. This will all be the unauthenticated thing. Okay, without even authenticating to something, you can collect information through this microbus tool. Microbus tool is again open source tool. Okay, we have also given the installation guide as well, so you can install like this and you can run following commands. That's all. Once you recover the flag, once you retrieve the flag or curate the flag, you can submit over here and just submit. Okay. If you need hints will be there. Yeah, that's the flow of Infinity. So right now might be running some sale, I guess. Might be, yeah. So here you can see Pro Plan. It's actually they are running some sale this time, so you might get heavy discount right now. For monthly, apart from $30, you just need to pay $9 per month. Okay, so that's all from my side for today. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. This webinar is just for the introduction, not much stuff. Just introduction between our like differentiation between RBC and Entra ID. All these work in similar way. Yeah. So Entra ID is the service provided by the Azure. In AWS, if we see, we have their IAM management section. Okay. In GCP, they have their separate IAM like this. So for like for Azure, they named it as Entra ID, and it also provides some other services as well, like app registrations and service principals and all those details. So Azure ID comes under Entra ID now. Okay, okay, Akshit. Thank you for joining. If anyone have any question, you can ask now. If not, we can wind up for today, and we'll meet some other day. Yeah. Okay, guys. See you some other day. Thank you for joining. I'm just ending this session. Okay. Thank you. Bye.